All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John,
And I'm Jack.
and this week we are reviewing the foreign Chinese film, The 800. I know a lot of you were expecting Saving Private Ryan this week, but we had a little scheduling issue arise with one of our guests, and we're hoping to get that sorted out and get back on track with getting that recorded at some time in the near future. Until then, we'll be doing a different World War II film about our very under-talked part of the war, which is the Japanese invasion of China. And Jack, this was your choice. How come you went with it?
Because, like you said, it's a very oft not discussed part of the war. How'd that feel?
Fucking sucks.
Looked like you got punched in the face. For our dear listeners, he opened a bottle of whatever he's drinking tonight and it sprayed in his face.
It's one of those old school like German bottles that has the weird metal contraption on it with like a cork. So like when I went to open it, it just like basically flew into my eyeball. So hopefully this beer is worth it.
Is it?
It's all right
Well, that's good to
for
hear.
for being 500 years old. It's not bad.
500 years old, huh?
Well, that's what it says on the bottle.
Okay.
Established 1514.
Wow. All those years and it just made its way to you. That's wild.
I know. Well,
You're taking a part of
I,
history.
I had bought this German beer because I was like I said, we were expecting to do Saving Private Ryan, but
Best laid plans of mice and men.
yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it sorted out at some point.
Yep.
But
Chuck it in the fuck it bucket.
so Jack, what'd you think of this?
Not bad. Not bad. They really like to call each other pussy a lot in this movie.
I'm curious if that's like a direct translation or if that's uh just a word they chose to be as an equivalent.
yeah,
Because you watched the English dub, right?
I couldn't find the Chinese dub of this. I wanted to watch like it an actual Chinese, but Netflix and Tubi only had the English versions.
Yeah, so I watched the English dub of it as well, and I'm kind of in the same camp as you, where, if I'm watching a foreign film, I like to watch it with the original language and then
Yeah.
have the subtitles beneath it. Because I can understand that, like, the subtitles are not always going to be direct translations, but I feel like the lines, because they're being delivered by the actual actors who said them, when you watch a film in its original language, you're seeing the lines the way they were meant to be portrayed or expressed. So maybe one day I'll be able to see this movie in its original language. But I mean, nonetheless, I also thought this film was pretty good, even with the weird dubbing thing we had going on.
Yeah, it is what it is. The dub itself wasn't bad, though. I've certainly seen worse dubs.
I just One thing that always kind of cracked me up is like whenever there's like a tough like sergeant or officer character who's like yelling like dig faster. Ah!
Yeah.
It's so over the top.
What I liked was the white people in this movie clearly speaking in Chinese, quote unquote Chinese, but then it being translated anyway. But they didn't fucking translate the Japanese language.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice. But I mean, I guess I'm not too terribly mad at it, but I mean, if we're already translating everything else, like we might as well. The one thing that I did notice that this film, at least when it came to like the dubbing aspect to it, is like, a lot of times when foreign films will have like a poster or like a sign that you're supposed to take notice of as a viewer, they usually put some sort of like subtitles underneath it to be like, hey, random American person, we know you don't read Chinese. This is what this sign says. That's kind of integral to our storytelling, but I'm not even all that upset about that because this film has a ton of like context clues for that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, I couldn't understand what the big Coca-Cola sign said,
or the Goodyear blimp.
or the Paramount Theater.
I gotta say, the Goodyear blimp made me so mad because I watched this movie and I saw the Goodyear blimp the first time around and I was like, man, that's really kind of weird and out of place. But I get it because the concession zone is what they call it, is it side tangent before we get back to the blimp pissing me off. Um, had you ever heard of concession territories before?
Maybe.
So I had never heard of this before, and that just shows how well my colonialism education has been. Um, Literally, concessions. The theory or the idea behind it is that you, perfect example is this film Shanghai. So England has an interest in a city or a territory in China. The country or government of China says, okay, we that they essentially lease the city to another foreign territory, and it kind of like ipso facto becomes like Shanghai is now a part of the British Empire, if you will. It's a really weird thing where it's like consensual colonialism, basically.
Wasn't, if I recall correctly, Hong Kong was a big secession concession to the British, was it not?
Yeah, I believe so.
And that was a big one for a long time.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of the quote unquote like consent part of it comes in because I'm sure there's a lot of like political and military strong arming when it comes to concessions, but
Yeah, it seems like
I
gunboat diplomacy.
well it's like did you ever you knew that like for the longest time Japan completely closed its borders off to all
Yep.
outsiders like through its like feudal time frame and
Sakoku, was it?
yeah and
Yeah, the
that
Sakoku.
and so that changed when America showed up with our battleships. It's like, no, you
Yeah,
will trade with us now.
yeah, it was the actor Matthew Perry that came to Japan with a bunch of guns and said, "No one told you life was going to be this way. Now open the country, bitches." I'm paraphrasing, of course,
Oh, I thought you were going to say end quote, but
but no, his name was literally Commodore Matthew Perry.
I know I have a fake piece of like it's a replica piece of Scrimshaw on my bookshelf, and it has a fuck, got it. There we go. It's got an inscription of Commodore Perry on it. I found it at an antique shop that
Cool.
didn't actually have any antiques, but the more you know.
More you know.
So, what did you think about uh, the portrayal of the Japanese in this film? I know that's a topic we always try and hit on whenever it comes to the Japanese military and war films because it really kind of runs the gambit between like really horrible caricatures versus like the super professional like it feels like when it comes to war movies with Japan it's either like very respectful of them or super disrespectful of them.
See, I'm used to having or seeing Japanese Imperial Japanese soldiers. Oh, excuse me, Jesus Christ. But I'm I'm used to seeing Imperial Japanese soldiers as the win at any cost kind of, where they like fucking dig themselves into holes for days or weeks at a time and then just bonsai charge the enemy forces. That don't work. Pull a pin on a grenade and at least take one or two with you. But I wasn't used to them showing at least some restraint in this movie. What with the don't use bombs and don't let a stray bullet go over to that side and kill them on this side, not on that side. I mean, eventually the gloves come off, yes, but
Right. I think as far as that goes, I think that has more to do to show the kind of the precarious situation the Japanese were in attacking this building, because essentially the concession zone is like, okay, if we screw up and we attack that, then that's the same as attacking Britain, which this occurred in like 1937. So the Japanese weren't really on the World at War game plan yet. They were just in the World at Asia game plan.
I see.
But the one I was genuinely shocked at kind of the restraint this film showed portraying the Japanese soldiers, because it is a Chinese produced film. Um, I I was fully expecting this to be a very propagandist type film where it's like,
Oh, me too.
I was expecting it to be a China fuck yeah film. Like,
Me too.
we're talking about a Chinese last stand. It would only make sense. But they keep talking like all of our primary Chinese characters. They talk about like, oh, the Japanese killed your uncle, or they'll rape your girlfriend, and stuff like that. But we never. There's only one super brief moment that the film actually depicts the Japanese committing anything heinous, at least that I noticed. And that was there's a scene where you can see kind of like the base camp for the Japanese, and there's a quick side kind of shot that kind of glances over to a couple of soldiers doing bayonet drills, and they're doing it on captured Chinese people. And you see that just little quick flash, and you're like, holy fuck, that's terrible. But like, if you look at the Japanese invasion and occupation of China, like they did do like a shitload of really terrible things. Like, and especially like they like especially they alluded to it in this film where they're like, what happens after this building falls? They're going to go to Nanking.
Oh yeah, Nanjing. I caught that too. I was like, "Who, buddy?"
And for those at home who aren't familiar,
Ugh.
it's a bad.
It's
It's
not
real.
called the. Yeah. It's not called the Battle of Nanking.
Yeah, it's so the fact that China obviously has a very traumatized look towards the Japanese occupation of World War, like during World War II. The fact that they showed that much restraint honestly shocked me.
Whew.
But
What
enough
what
about
what was your
or
favorite part of the movie?
wait a minute, I gotta get back to the fucking blimps. Okay,
Yes, of course.
I don't even know why we got off track from the blimps. Oh yeah, exclusionary. Whatever. The blimps. I need to talk about the blimps before I forget about it. Then I'll go to my favorite part of this film. So the Goodyear blimp fucking pissed me off, because I was like, the first time I see it, I'm like, oh, this is just a weird little cameo, like, or this is a weird ad placement. But whatever, I get it. They're trying to show like this movie makes a very big point of showing the concession zone as like, fun city lights, like very like modern and like fun, not a care in the world. And then contrast that to the guys who are stuck in the factory doing their last stand. It's a great visual representation. But the fucking blimp keeps showing up like multiple scenes. And like there's scenes where we have like military advisors like lounging in the fucking blimp, like looking through the binoculars, like, oh, look at them go. And I was like, they're referencing this fucking blimp too much for it not to be true. Like there has to be something to this. And that's what pisses me off is that like I looked high and low and I can't find anything to validate a dirigible being there, let alone the Goodyear blimp. Like, let's put the Goodyear blimp to the side. Let's just say random ass dirigible belonging to a Western power. I can't find anything. I even I I went against my better judgment. I went to fucking Reddit and I posted a question. Yeah, I posted a question. I'm like, can anybody tell me if this is real or not? Because it's making me mad. And even Reddit was like, no, this is stupid. Like, so I don't know where they came up with the decision to have that as a air quote recurring character in this film, but I don't know. It just if you watch this film, you'll notice what I'm saying when it's like, why does the blimp have as big of a part as it does when it, for all intents and purposes, I cannot find anything that validates that it was there.
Also, is now a bad time to mention that you misspelled dirigible pilot on your title?
Shut up.
It's spelled with an I, not an E.
You know I only passed the fourth grade.
Go ahead, say my title.
Pussy.
You're goddamn right.
I'm not the pussy, you're the pussy.
I was at play practice the other day, and for one of our stage directions, me and this other woman are supposed to be like pretending to be going through a door. Only I thought she was supposed to be pretending to go out another door. So I was like, go over there, go over there. You're supposed to be on that side. She's like, no, we decided it's this side. And the director backed her up, like, yeah, we decided it's going to be this side. And then she just sharply whispered to me, dick. And I said, yeah, well, you are what you eat. Shit, wait. But it was too late. Also, what are you drinking this evening?
It is traditional Guller? Galler? It has an umlaut on it.
An umlaut.
Yeah.
Wait,
Steinhauer Weisse.
Weisse. Show me the title again. Guler. Guler. Steinhauer Weiss.
What are you drinking?
Well, since this is a Chinese film, I thought I'd drink something traditionally Chinese. Mountain Dew. I failed history. But so I don't know how cold it is there, but it's colder than a witch's tit here. It's like um -4 degrees, and that's without the wind chill, which is much, much colder than that. So the second work got out today, I immediately went to the Chinese restaurant, picked up one of my favorite dishes, Four Seasons, some other victuals from the place because they also sell snack foods, some mango soft drink of theirs. And then I just camped out and watched this movie, and here I am. And I don't plan on leaving my house. Well, I only plan on leaving my house once this weekend, and that's for play practice on Sunday. And even then, it's going to be shit because it's a fucking cold one this weekend.
You rebel, you.
How cold is it there?
I don't know how cold it was. It was single digits today.
Uh, yeah, and
But
I had to go outside a couple times, twice going to work, twice for lunch, and then twice coming home, and all of those times just made me hate my life.
more than usual.
More than usual, if that's possible.
Not as bad as being in a Chinese factory,
Warehouse.
warehouse, whatever.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I guess I'd rather be in the cold than in a goddamn Shanghai warehouse on 1937, surrounded by the Japanese army.
Honestly, I was kind of expecting more battle scenes. Like, don't get me wrong, there is some great battle scenes in this, and I'll get to my favorite scene here in a moment. But like, I was expecting more like everybody line up at the windows kind of deal. Um, but I understand that they have a like a bigger overarching story they're trying to tell. One of my favorite scenes, though, it was both probably the hardest I laughed and also the most emotional I got during this film, which is I think it's like the second day of battle, and the Japanese come up in their little Roman centurion shield wall thing, and they get up to one of the walls of the warehouse, and the Japanese sappers start readying an explosive charge to like breach the wall. And one guy's like, I'm going to take care of this. And he just like straps a bunch of grenades to his chest and he jumps from like the second or third floor of this building on top of them. And like, the reason I say I laughed is because it's very much kind of like that 300 like bomb rolling into a pile of bombs thing. But instead, it's this guy lands and like a Japanese soldier like looks at him. They make contact, or it's kind of like the moment from Pearl Harbor where the one sailor is in the Arizona. He's like, "Oh fuck!"
uh,
Like
Pearl Harbor.
almost the exact same vibes from that scene, and I was like, this was where the movie almost lost me. But then the scene continues on, and like a dozen more guys, like inspired by this first dude, they all do the same thing. Like they strap grenades to their chests, and then they start jumping out, and then it pans over to the concession side as these civilians are watching these guys just fling themselves out of a building, like suicide bombing the Japanese. And I thought it was very impressive that this film went from making me laugh and like thinking this is a stupid fucking movie to being like, holy shit, this is a hardcore scene. So like
Right? Fuck.
like they salvaged that scene just beautifully.
That they did.
What was your favorite scene?
The Japanese are in the warehouse. The Japanese are in the warehouse. That guy fucking running along the street in the shoreline, hitting that gong to try to wake him up. The actors playing their music. And it cuts to them, the Japanese sneaking in with knives and no shirts, just charging at people with guns, and those guys scurrying up the ladders.
How
That was
did
an
they sneak
intense
in?
scene.
How did the ninja squad sneak in? Is my question.
Well, you see, the guy that was supposed to be guarding that decided to defect with two of his friends, one of whom drowned in their attempt to stay silent. And then
I
the
guess.
the
What a pussy.
nerd, yeah, Abacus.
Also, we can't just name the math nerd abacus guys.
Yes, we can. Like, do you realize if this was an American military movie, his name would be like Sipowitz or Klebowitz or something, and he'd be the radio operator.
Hey, Four Eyes, get over here.
Move it, goggles. I don't know,
That's
Abacus.
Corporal Goggles to you.
I don't know, Abacus. I. That's kind of a better nickname than Four Eyes or Goggles. And he was an accountant. That's literally what he did. And he ran away, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. He was probably the most annoying of the deserters. Just no real redeeming factor. Which, what did you think about a lot of our primary characters being deserters? Like,
That is
I
not what
th-
at all what I was expecting from a Chinese movie. I got to be honest.
no, it wasn't. And the other part of it too is like, if you, like I said, I was expecting this to be a propaganda film, but if you are trying to make like a China fuck yeah film where you're like, look at this courageous last stand that we did, why are you choosing a bunch of guys who aren't like your like China fuck yeah guys? You know, like why are they the guys who are trying to run away? And granted, we have a couple of them that like they have their redemption arc and they choose to stay eventually, but it doesn't change the fact that it's like there are times in this where I'm like, I can't say I'm really rooting for the Chinese because there are multiple scenes where they literally shoot their own people because they're like, "You're a coward," and it's like he was just raising an opinion, guys. Like it just it blew my mind. It's kind of the same feeling I get watching World War II films with like Russian soldiers. Kind of like if you've ever seen Enemy at the Gates, there's a scene where they do this like massive charge and then it fails and the survivors of this charge kind of they retreat back to their lines and then the Russians start shooting their own guys because they're like, there's no retreat, no cowardice. And I'm like, this does not make me want to root for you. And I mean, even if it's historically accurate, I just I don't know. It
And
is not making me be like, yeah, go team China on your last stand.
and I guess it is easy for us to judge at
Oh,
that time
absolutely.
because we weren't there. But I can't guarantee you I'd be the patriotic hero in that situation.
Absolutely. But there's something to be said that forced patriotism is a lot less inspiring.
That scene where they're all struggling to keep the flag aloft, and a couple go out there, get mowed down, a couple more go out there, lift it up for a bit, then get mowed down, and then finally one guy hoists it up, and then the Japanese, I guess they just get tired and leave. That scene was very reminiscent of the battle that inspired the Star Spangled Banner, where no matter what, we had to keep the flag aloft because lowering it would be a sign of surrender. And the British were like fucking hawking cannonballs at us. And it kept getting knocked over, and we'd send more and more people out to raise it, and then they'd get killed, and we'd send more people, and ad nauseum. And by the dawn's early light, our flag was still there.
My thing about the Chinese flag in this story is like they didn't have it for like the first 2 days of the battle, and then they received one, and then they're like, okay, we got to put it up. And I was like, it's really weird for a military unit not to have their nation's flag. So I actually had to like Google it. And apparently, like at this time, Chinese military units only like regiment size and up had flags, or maybe it was like brigades or divisions. Like a really large size unit would have a flag, but not this size. So it was like a big deal that a unit this small received a flag. So, but I also was kind of the opinion I'm like, this seems like a poor use of your resources to like couldn't we have put the flag up overnight and like made a really sturdy base and not lost any people doing it?
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Oh well.
Man, and yeah, poor Abacus got his finger, like some of his fingers shot off. Didn't that one guy get shot through like from one cheek out the other?
Yeah,
That
pussy
looked
number
like it
one.
hurt.
It did. And then he kept like asking people for smoke. So I'm like, how are you smoking with two holes in your face? Well,
No shit.
three, six. I don't know. Two extra holes than normal in your face.
Hey, let's see. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Yeah, seven total holes, I believe. Unless I'm missing one.
Anywho,
This is a hole counting podcast.
kinky. What'd you think of our magnificent white horse character?
It was odd, to be sure. Was that a real thing in this battle?
Again, it's not anything I could really validate, but I did Google it because I was like, okay, they're very obviously throwing this in as a symbolic choice of some sort, but I'm not getting it. And I still don't get it 100%, but from what I've ascertained is that the white horse is related to uh like the delivering of Buddha's teachings. Like apparently there's somewhere in that religion where a white horse carried like all the teachings of Buddha or something of that nature. And if we have any Buddhist listeners and I completely fucked that up, please shoot me a DM and then I can correct that at a future date. But suffice it to say that the white horse has something to do with Buddhism. And I think that's one of the follies of watching a foreign film is that there are cultural things that we as a Western viewer are not going to get or understand unless we like go out of our way to try and figure it out.
Yeah, cultural divides.
You know what character I was severely disappointed we didn't get to see more of was the Killdozer.
Oh yeah, the killdozer. Oh, the thing was the tits.
We get to see the fucking Japanese Killdozer for like 30 seconds and it doesn't have any other impact of the movie. I'm like, come on! Vroom vroom, motherfucker!
Man, and speaking of tits, that guy that died a virgin never getting to feel tits, that was the saddest death.
That conversation honestly made me uncomfortable.
Man,
Have you ever
and
been with a woman?
that's another um question I've been pondering. Like, we're okay with dudes getting shot through the cheek, shot through the head, blown up, gassed, blah blah blah. But the talk of sex makes us uncomfortable.
I wouldn't even say the talk of sex makes me uncomfortable. The way they were talking about sex made me uncomfortable.
I mean,
It's
talked
so
about sex
soft.
like they talked about sex like Chinese commoners from the 30s would, I guess. Not that I would
Well,
know.
it kind of sounded like two 12-year-olds talking about boobs.
I totally slept with like 200 girls.
You wouldn't know them. They go to a different school.
Always go to a different school, don't they?
They do. They do.
That they do.
You know, what was your favorite moment in this? Or did I already ask you that?
You did, but what the fuck did
Oh.
I say? Man, there's not all there tonight. This cold weather. Oh yeah, the scene where they attack the warehouse and they like swim in through it and they scurry up the ladders and they still fight them off.
Yeah. That was probably the most like cartoonish portrayal of the Japanese soldiers in this film. But what did you think of the the moment when one of our Chinese characters like finds a flamethrower and just like out of curiosity pulls a trigger on it, and it just goes, "Poof," and then
Fucking
somebody in the background is like, "That's not a toy," and
don't play with fire, idiots. I mean,
I'm
yeah,
pretty.
they're acting like I'd expect kids to act.
I was like, I'm pretty sure flamethrowers are a lot more aggressive than that.
And he only gave it a little bit of juice.
Uh, Still, ugh. What did you think of like how graphic the like wounding and combat in this movie was?
When they get wounded, man, they get wounded.
Like you
Yeah, some
mentioned
of the
it,
wounds are pretty gnarly too.
like you mentioned it earlier with the portrayal of Japanese soldiers, but like the first time I saw like a Japanese soldier like suicide grenade himself, I was like, holy fuck!
Yeah, and that's almost a trope at this point with World War II movies. The Pacific had it. This had it. Pretty sure another movie I'm forgetting had it. I think Flags of Our Fathers did. I don't know. Have to save that one for when we review it.
Someday.
And
But
that is a thing they used to do in the war. Like when they were injured, they just pull the pin on the grenade, hold the lever, wait till someone came to inspect them, and then just babooey.
babui is that the technical term?
Yes, it's the word. It's the automatopoeia I'm going with. Fucking deal with it.
Great vocab. Onomatopoeia.
Great. You know,
China. We made it 37 minutes before I made that joke.
you know. Some people say that I use big words that I don't know the meaning of to sound smart, but I think they're just being photosynthesis.
That they are. That they are.
Get it? Because photosynthesis is a big word, and never mind.
I don't get it.
You'll get it when you're older.
Eh.
Mm.
So, what did you think about how this movie kind of wraps up or resolves? Which is, kind of going back to my whole like desertion traitor, like we're all for like willy nilly shooting people because they're like quote unquote cowards or something. But then this whole movie is meant it is portrayed as a last stand film, and it is a last stand film, and it's very impressive all the way up. But then we finally get to our final like kind of big moment, and it's not like a final charge or like you know everybody is finally wiped out in the building, but they're told, okay, your mission is to survive, make it across the bridge, see you on the other side. And I'm like, what, how many motherfuckers did you shoot because they were trying to do this like 2 days ago? Like,
See, it's
like
okay
what
when
the?
they do it. They had
Yeah,
orders.
yeah. I was like, what the fuck, guys? I don't know. It's just, and granted, I know it's like the real part of this story, and they did a very good exposition of being like, they must see your courage of surviving in order to learn to continue to fight. And it's like, guys, stop trying to sell me on this. It it's fine. Like there's a better way that they could have done it, which is like, okay, Chiang Kai Shek wants you to hold this position until other troops are like able to get to the places they need to get. Like you're buying them time. Okay, we can do that. Fine. But instead, they're like, they start the film off with, "You're the only thing standing between the Japanese army and Nanking." Okay, let's run across the bridge. We're done here. Like it kind of makes the whole last stand thing seem a little pointless or contradictory, if you will. What did you think of the bridge escape?
I was really kind of hoping to see the aftermath of it, but it just sort of ends with people reaching through the grating with their hands and fists and thumbs extended. But I'm glad, yeah, I'm glad it showed the factory as it is, or god damn it, you got me doing this, asshole. But it showed the warehouse as it is today, and they kept it up.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the warehouse still stands today as it was then, and they turned it into a monument. The other part of that bridge scene that gets me a little bit is like there's a couple of things that get me about that, but like technically speaking, so there's a point where they're like, okay, the English are going to turn their searchlight off so we can sneak across the bridge, but then the Japanese turn their like searchlights on. But even if the Japanese hadn't turned their searchlights on, the whole movie we've seen and expressed the fact that the concession zone is the city of lights like Paris. Like, what does it matter if the searchlight is on or not? Like, should there be enough ambient light to notice this shit?
And related to our point from earlier about the concessions, but the foreign concessions lent to its nickname, the Shanghai's nickname at this time, which was the Whore of the Orient, because everyone had a piece of her.
You nasty.
Mm-hmm. Which, and I know for a fact you've played LA Noir. That was gonna be that was proposed as the idea for a sequel, 1930s Shanghai, but we never got it because the original company shut down.
Didn't Rockstar own it?
They contracted some other Australian developer to help make the game,
Hmm.
mostly the facial animations and shit, because that was a big selling point. And the game was a success, yes, but wasn't enough.
Hmm.
Would have been a dope fucking setting though.
Yeah, I imagine it would have. Oh, I don't know about you, but do you think it's about time to rate this thing?
Yes, I think it is. Actually, before we rate, another scene I'd like to bring up, that scene where the cable stretchers were killed partway over the bridge, and they keep sending people after person to go pick it up and get it to the other side of the bridge. Most of them don't even get to the end of the cable. And then that casino owner's brother is like, fuck yeah, I'm fast. And he like fucking cuts himself, makes his mark on the sign up paper, fucking sticks the knife in the wood in front of them, and then runs
Yeah,
his ass off the.
he does like an anime hero pose before running across the bridge.
Just cutting lines, and that dude he cuts in front of had the look of, "Hey asshole, it was my turn."
It was a little out of place, but maybe that's another part of the like dubbing thing that makes it not translate as well.
Cultural differences.
Oh well. So, what do you think the rating? Well, I know what you want. You probably want to rate this, which is piss soaked rags, uh, because impromptu gas mask. But we already had a P rating last week, so
There's a theme to our ratings, dear listeners. We're
we
trying to
try
tell
to.
you something deep seated.
That's me and Jack's kink. But what do you think the rating ought to be?
Cigarettes.
Packs of cigarettes.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear what you got.
Uh, 3 packs, and but one. Or no, 4 packs. No, 3 packs, and then 3/4 of a pack, another pack left, but the casing's all crumpled.
Okay.
All right, let's hear yours then.
I give this 3 solid packs. It's it is a good movie. I did enjoy watching it. There are things in it that were lost on me that I had to look up. Um, I don't really see myself watching this movie again. Not that I. It's not a bad movie, but it's not going to be in my queue for future watching. What does Rotten Tomatoes have?
All right. Rotten Tommy Toes. Shit. There we go. Um, the tomometer says 88%, and the audience score says 79%. Gotta go with the audience on this one.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think this was like the second highest grossing film of 2020, which I know isn't saying a lot because of COVID and everything, but I mean, it was a really popular film.
Hmm. I didn't hear about it until recently.
I think it's been on our list since the beginning, but it's more towards like the bottom of the list, like 120, 130 area.
Gotcha.
But speaking of our list, it's time to announce our next film that we'll be reviewing. And Jack, would you like to take a guess at what we're doing?
Pearl Harbor 2, Pearl Harder.
Because Pearl Harbor sucked, and I miss you. No, we're going to go with a film it stretches the war film parameters just a little bit. Uh,
Those are usually the best kind.
yep, but it's going to be our second comic book movie. It is Jonah Hex.
Hell yeah, that movie's on my list.
Hex,
At first,
yeah!
Hex, yeah.
Miranda's going to be so pissed off at me.
Oh, I forgot to ask. Did she walk in on the part of the mass bathing?
No, no, she didn't. She started this film with me, and she bailed out at the mass grenade suicide scene. So we were good.
I was about to say we could be running an entire porn podcast and she would never know.
That is fair. She
Like,
doesn't listen to our episodes, so
oh, what? Is she not a fan? What, are we not good enough for her?
no, she can't listen to like say if I answer the phone, she will literally leave the room because something about like me talking like officially or something just like bothers her. So as much as she wants to be supportive of us, she can't stand the sound of my voice.
Ouch. Well, to be fair, I don't really listen to our episodes either.
Well, I mean, you were here, so
That and I hate the sound of my own voice.
imagine how I feel because I'm the one that has to edit these things.
You have a great voice, though.
Yeah,
Mine
but
is
like
just monotone fuckboy.
I end up usually listening to each episode about 3 times just in the course of doing editing and shit.
Well, your sacrifice is greatly appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you for your service.
Salute. Well, I think that about does it for this episode.
It does. Like I said, Brandon's going to be pissed off about Jonah Hex because Jonah Hex, this might come as a surprise, but Jonah Hex is my favorite DC comic book hero or character. He's not really a hero. Um, I like so much so that I have All Star Western number 10, which is the first appearance of Jonah Hex, which cost me a pretty penny to acquire. Um, But the last time we watched this film, and I made her sit and watch it with me, um, like every time he shoots somebody, I just would yell out, "Hex, yeah!"
Oh man, and that part of the movie where he says, Jonah Hex you, and then he Jonah Hexed all over those guys.
Right.
I say that as a person who's never seen the movie.
It's not great.
That's what makes me all the more excited.
I say that as somebody who loves the character Jonah Hex. It's not that good of a movie, but
But I can't wait
I,
nonetheless.
I still enjoy it. You know, just like you know, we watch Star Trek Six. There are people who enjoy Star Trek Six. Doesn't mean it's a good film.
Well, fuck you. That was a good movie. I liked it.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I donut.
Okay. Well, if you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Armchair Commanders Podcast. We also have a Discord under the same name where we do occasional live viewings. Uh, if you want to find our episodes on YouTube or any other additional history content from us, we have a YouTube page called History Apprentice. If there's nothing else, we've enjoyed having you all with us, and we will catch you later.
Bye.